If I can call this meeting to order. Good evening, folks. This evening we're going to be covering two agendas. We have our committee of the whole agenda, and that will be followed by our council meeting agenda. So with that, I will ask for a prayer by Councillor Angie Desmarais, and that will be followed by the national anthem by Mr. Joe Longfellow. Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Heavenly Father, source of all truth and wisdom, who knows and loves the whole creation, continue to watch over our community, that truth may prevail over distortion, wisdom triumph over recklessness, and the concerns of every person be heard. Amen.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. Car ton bras se porte l'épée, il se porte la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée de plus brillant exploit. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Joe. As always, well done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Madam Clerk, any agenda items this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are two items I'd like to bring your attention to this evening. The first is that the presentation to Glenn Fretz has been withdrawn and will be rescheduled for the February 10th meeting. And the second is that Councillor Bodner has sent his regrets for tonight. He is attending the Fort Erie Town Council meeting and representing the city concerning a report on the Zavitz Municipal Drain, as well as a delegation from the South Coast Tourism Association.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of Council, if I can ask for a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Steele, Councillor Doucette, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest this evening? With none, members of Council, we will now get into the agenda. So let's get to work. First off, are there any items requiring separate discussion? Really? Well, if I can ask members of Council to raise a few items that I would like highlighted this evening. If we can have item 1, 3, 5, 9, 11, and 12 raised. Councillor Kenny, I don't want that look off you. Councillor Steele? That's fine? I'll raise it. Great, thank you, Councillor. Are there any further items? With none, members of Council, we do have two presentations this evening, and I will make them from the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here this evening on, quite frankly, on your behalf of the residents of the city of Port Colborne, and equally as important, the members of City Council, to recognize an individual that I'm sure needs no introduction, and of course the company he represents. First off, I do have to say that it's always a privilege to be here as the mayor of the community, to recognize many individuals that we have throughout our community. And with that, we have an honor to simply say two things. Thank you. 2 words. Something that, quite frankly, sometimes we don't say often enough, but it is a privilege on your behalf to be able to say that. And with that, it is my privilege to stand here this evening on behalf of all of you to honor an individual who has continued to live by and contribute to our next generations. And I say generations because the impact he's made within his community will in fact be everlasting. and not only to his own business and to his own family and to the overall community, but also, as I said, for years to come, he's done this with a great deal of integrity, honesty, and quite frankly, good old-fashioned, get your hands dirty, hard work. We have chosen this individual as this year's Canal Day Sponsor of the Year. And even though he celebrated his 90th birthday late last year, Lawson Snyder shows no signs of slowing down. And I have to digress from my notes for a second, guys, because I've known the Snyder family, in particular Lawson, since I was a little guy. I think since I was Zoe's age, I've known him. And quite frankly, I can recall as a youngster, and in particular when I first got my license and was driving down at the dock, Lawson running out with a stick in his hand saying, "Slow down. You're creating dust everywhere." So Lawson, I'll never forget that. You never did catch me, though. But with that, I'd like to take this opportunity to call Lawson on up here to stand right next to me. Lawson, if you want to come on up. '90th birthday. Come on. There's no way. There's just no way. Come on up here, Lawson. Lawson, born October 22nd. Oh, you're a Libra.
Yes.
So am I. That explains a lot. Born on October 22nd, 1923, Lawson grew up on the family farm just off Snyder Road as the only child of Frank and Emma Snyder. He married Tilda McIntyre in 1944, and together the couple had 6 children: Ken, Larry, Harvey, Karen, Heather, and Barry. In 1948, Lawson began his entrepreneurial career with L.E. Snyder Fuels, delivering coal to family homes and small commercial enterprises. As times changed, Lawson changed with them and added to his fleet by purchasing a tanker truck to deliver furnace oil as a heating source here within the community. In the early 1960s, Lawson was approached by Rochester and Pittsburgh Coal Company to manage the operations of their dockside and trucking business here in the city of Port Colborne. That also including bunkering ships with coal. In 1985, he purchased the assets of Rochester and Pittsburgh and officially formed Snyder Dock Services Limited, leasing docks on the east and west sides of the Welland Canal at its southern mouth of the Welland Canal here on Lake Erie in the city of Port Colborne. The dock facilities complement Lawson's trucking business, L.E. Snyder Transport, Inc. Apart from his successful business career, Lawson has always put his family first, and by all means we can see that here this evening. Spending quality time over the years with his beloved Tilda, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, whether at his family homestead on Lakeshore Road East or at the family cottage in Buckhorn. I've heard some stories.
They're all good, too.
Oh, they're all excellent. Lawson has also been a strong Port Colborne booster, and quite frankly, that's an understatement. He's been very much involved over the years, throwing his support behind numerous community projects, as well as being actively involved in his church, the First Lutheran, for decades. He continues to maintain a guiding influence at the helm of the 2 companies he founded, even though son Ken and daughter Heather manage the day-to-day affairs of the patriarch's businesses. Lawson also makes a point of keeping his finger on the pulse of the marine industry as a whole. It's not only his livelihood, it's his hobby as well. Lawson Snyder still conducts business the way he believes it's meant to be conducted, with honesty, with integrity, a smile, and a good old-fashioned handshake. And for that, he has earned the ongoing respect of his peers and, quite frankly, the entire community here in the city of Port Colborne and throughout the Niagara region, the province of Ontario, and our great nation of Canada. Lawson, we are so pleased to have you as our Canal Day Sponsor of the Year. Please accept my congratulations, my heartfelt thank you for everything that you've done, not only for the different things that we've been doing here throughout the community, but just simply being who you are and contributing to the overall fabric of the city of Port Colborne. And with that, and it's the very least I can do, as I always say, council they never let me send you folks off to a Hawaiian trip. So you get the next best thing. You get a plaque. But with this plaque, and besides being a piece of wood with an engraving on it, please know that this comes directly from the heart of not only myself and members of council, but more importantly, Lawson, from each and every resident that resides here in the city of Port Colborne. And it reads, presented to Lawson Snyder of Snyder Dock Services Limited, L.E. Snyder Transport, Inc., 2014 Canal Days Sponsor of the Year. Lawson, thank you. Thank you for your continued partnership within our community. Succeed together today, walk together forever. Lawson, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to say anything? Do you want to say anything?
This is quite an honor. I didn't expect this, but I would like to thank everyone involved very, very much. And I will continue to do the things I like to do, to sponsor and support the city's efforts in their community projects. Thank you very much.
Why don't we do the picture, guys, over there? And all you folks over there can stand up. Before I get on to the next presentation, I want to say as well to the family how much we appreciate your allowing us to have Lawson do all the work. I know there's been many nights where he hasn't come home at the dinner hour, or he hasn't come home at all, or he might be at the dock for many, many hours on end. So to the family as well, especially to the son and daughters, I do want to say thank you to you, as well as to all those that sometimes may have not seen Lawson on many evenings and sometimes days. To all you folks, thank you for affording him to the overall community. So with that, our next presentations are going to be some checks that we're going to give out that I'm sure a lot of you people are waiting for. So I am going to call on our Vice Chair of the Port Colborne Hydro Board, Councillor B. Kenny. Councillor Kenny?
Billy. Thank you so much. And from one terrific community sponsor to the opportunity to give to community groups, it's always great. We get to do this twice a year. The board of directors of our hydro, with the support of council, get to give back to the community by supporting community groups within our city and abroad. So I'm going to ask, first of all, Councillor Bill Steele, who's one of the directors, to come up and make the first couple presentations. Bill?
Thank you, Bea. Just one thing, Mayor. I think you better learn something from Mr. Snyder. Short and sweet. Kept his speech short and sweet. It's a good piece of information for you. First, we'll be giving to Community Living of Port Colborne Wainfleet, Pat Davis. I know Pat's here because I rode up in the elevator with her. She's chairman of the board. And Rita Smith. Is Rita here? Yeah. Come on up, Rita. The Port Colborne Hydro Inc. Is pleased to give $3,200 to provide transportation and the training specialized workers needed for the 40 children of Port Colborne that attend Kids Zone each Monday and Wednesday at their Center of Community Living. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great job, Pat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Say a few words, Pat. You want to say it?
I always want to say
Well, I know. I know where that comes from, too, Pat.
you read all my notes, but we want to thank the City of Port Colborne and the Hydro Board for this donation. I know we're regular visitors to the trough, but this money for the transportation alone has increased our numbers from 9 children. Once we put transportation in place, we now have 40 children that can come out twice a week to the after-school programs that we can support, and they can enjoy socializing and learning all sorts of new skills. So for that, we are very thankful for our children of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Good job, Pat.
Next, we have the Niagara Antique Power Association, Barbara Middlestead.
Barbara's not here this evening.
Barbara's not here, so we'll make sure.
We'll give that to Barb.
Yeah, so we'll get the $700 for that. And this is to fund the purchase of materials for the volunteers of the Niagara Antique Power Association to build railings and a sun shelter on their bleachers. Great, thank you.
I failed to mention when I came up to the microphone earlier that we're missing our chair, Len Hunt. He sent an email today to say he was ill and couldn't make it, and also Gary Bruno, and he is also a director on the board. So for both of them, just so you know, this next presentation goes to the Port Colborne Operatic Society to assist with the cost of providing professional musicians to play with the students during this year's performance of the Broadway musical, The Music Man. The Operatic Society has been hosting musicals in the city for 68 years, and it's $1,000 for that. Gentlemen, Tim Barney and Jeff Bellin. Okay. Congratulations. Who gets the check? Like to say something?
Thank you very much.
Okay. You want to say anything?
Just thank you very much to the Port Colborne Hydro Board. We appreciate the support of it as well as all of our other sponsors. Our first show is February 15th. It's Meet the Cast Night, so we invite everybody in the region and throughout to come out and check out our show. We put on a great production. It's all volunteer actors as well as behind the scenes. We have over 74 people on stage and probably about 50 behind the scenes. So thank you very much.
The next presentation of $1,500 goes to the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 56. And this is to assist with the purchase of a new commercial fridge in the upstairs hall to further with assisting with fundraising efforts to help veterans in our community. And Irene. Thank you very much. Want to say anything? No? Too nervous? Our next one, and this has been an ongoing contribution from the Hydro Board as voted on by City Council, and that's a presentation to the Port Cares Capital Fund to assist with the building and renovations of the Reach Out Center and Food Bank. A total commitment of $22,000 has been made by this board and City Council, and we have a check tonight for $4,000 to Linda Reinhardt. You're welcome.
Thanks, Linda.
You wanna say something? Yeah.
I would like to thank the Hydro Board and the City of Port Colborne for their support in the delivery of the services of the Reach Out Food Centre to the most vulnerable in our community. Thank you very much.
Another presentation tonight, and goes to the Port Colborne Concert Band. It's one of my favorite ones. If you've never gone down to the park in the summer and listened to these musicians, it's really great. It's something that you should really bring your lawn chair and come out and sit and listen to them. So this goes to 17 musicians under the direction of Brenda Green. Provide 5 concerts on Thursday evenings in July and August at the Mark Fairchild Memorial Bandshell at the H.H. Knoll Lakeview Park. And like I said, you gotta come and hear them. They're great. So Brenda?
Green. I'm glad. Thank you very much to Port Colborne Hydro, and I'd like to thank Larry Bojo Pharmacy, for paying our insurance for these band concerts. It helps us a lot. But there's 5 Thursdays in July, so you know where to come. Beautiful H.H. Knoll Park, about 7:20 we start. Bring a lawn chair and your tap and shoes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask another director of the board, Mayor Vance Badaway, to present the rest of the checks for this evening. Thanks.
Thanks, B. Yes, Councillor Steele, and I'll try to keep it short. You know, there is going to be a day when you and I are going to be on the ice together again, eh? Yes, remember my knees. It is a pleasure this evening to present some checks on behalf of the board. And I have to say, for you folks watching on COGECO and some of you folks here this evening, you're probably wondering where this money is coming from. This money is set aside each year based on the dividends that we receive from the Canadian Niagara Power deal that we made back in 2001. And we took a lot of the monies that we otherwise accrued over time through those dividends, and we put them into an account so that we hope in perpetuity we have an opportunity every year to grant these dollars to different organizations throughout the community. So that's where these dollars are coming from. And of course, the Hydro Board then sits down with many applications each year, actually twice a year, and based on those applications, find who's successful in receiving the dollars that they've asked for. Some don't get everything they asked for, but they get at least a little. So with that, the first check I want to give out is for $1,400, and it is to the Save Our Lighthouses, Erno Rossi. Erno, if you want to come on up. Folks, in 2013, a group of volunteers arranged for tours of our lighthouses here in the city of Port Colborne over at the mouth of the Welland Canal. During the Canal Days Festival, those tours went on, quite frankly, very successfully. It was a great success with over 400 visitors taking part, and funds received tonight will help cover the cost of the liability insurance required, hopefully, so that this can continue well into the future. So with that, I do have the privilege to offer Erno a $1,400 check for this once again to continue in the future. Erno? Good job. Okay. Smile, will you?
Try. So the Save Our Lighthouses group would like to thank City Council and Port Colborne Hydro for its support in helping to save our 2 lighthouses for future generations. We promise to do our best to enhance the local history of our community and for our own people and for those who visit us on Canal Days and the rest of the year. Of historical interest, today, January 27th, is the day before the blizzard of '77 that hit us with full force on January 28th, 1977. There's confusion over that date at times, and I'm confused because of the sevens and whatnot at times. So again, thank you. You've given the year 2014 a very positive beginning. Thank you. Thank you.
The blizzard of '77. I lived it, and I think I read a book about that too.
Books are on sale at www.
They still on sale or no? The next check I have is a $1,000 check to the South Niagara Rowing Club. So if I can call Kevin Fuller on up, Kevin. And this oh, come on, Sved Birash. Did I pronounce it right? Swede. Birak. I guess I didn't. Guys, it's a pleasure to have you. I know this is to assist you folks on purchasing an indoor rowing machine to be used as a focal point of the training program for high schools here in South Niagara and the athletes that they have there during the winter training season. And for all you folks, although the South Niagara Rowing Club is in Welland, it's partly in Port Colborne. Part of the course is in Port Colborne, and I do know that a lot of the students, both at Lakeshore Catholic and Port Colborne High School, do take part in their programs. So with that, the board felt it very appropriate that we do pass on $1,000 for your programming.
Thank you, Worship.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank the council and the Hydro for this donation. As mentioned, this will be, actually we've already ordered the erg, and it'll be going to Port Colborne High. So I'd like to challenge anybody here in the room, council members, and once we have it in place at the high school, to see if we go down there and try it out and see how you do. And yes, there's quite a connection between our waterways from Port Colborne to Welland through the course. The course begins, the starting line begins in Port Colborne, and the finish line is in Welland. So I'd love to have a regatta one day that says the dash to Welland or something like that. It'd be interesting. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Like the old saying goes, it starts in Welland, but we finish the job here in Port Colborne.
Did you hear that, Barry?
The next check is to Women's Place of South Niagara. If I can call Stephanie Thompson up. And Steph is a member of the board of directors, and this check is for $1,700, and this is to assist with funding of programs and services for women and children who are fleeing domestic violence. And it is unfortunate that the need for the services this organization provides continues to grow. However, we'd all do our best as a community to, in fact, contribute to the organization. So therefore, hopefully someday it can go the other way. So with that, I do want to offer Stephanie this $1,700 check. And by all means, if you have any words to say, the microphone's yours.
Thank you. On behalf of Women's Place of South Niagara, I'd like to thank our mayor, our council, and Port Colborne Hydro. This will be well used to help women and children who are leaving an abusive situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, I do have a $2,500 check here to the YMCA of Niagara. If I can call on Steve Weidman. And is Carly here too? She's not. She's working over at the Y, right? She's working over at the Y, right? This is a $2,500 check to assist with the cost of providing the YMCA's Youth Action Program between March and December of 2014. Youth Action provides youth in grades 4 to 8 with a positive social recreational outlet at Still Street School on Tuesday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. The program provides an opportunity to build relationships with other youth in the community, and I have to say that besides this $2,500 check that we're given to the Y for that particular program, I'd be remiss if I didn't also state a huge thank you and appreciation to the YMCA for everything that you're doing within our community, within the New Valley Center, and a lot of the programs that you're hosting. Having a community go from 15 programs to 250 programs for all ages there's something to be said about that. And without the partnership that we have with the YMCA, it just simply wouldn't happen. So with that, a great big thank you from all of us.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
You might as well step up. You might as well step up and give your half-hour speech.
Sure.
Watch it, Billy might hit you in the back.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, and to the Hydro Board for these funds. As the Mayor had said, this will help us provide programming for community youth at Steele Street. The best part about it is that these funds allow us to do it at no charge to the participant. So anybody who wants to come out on Tuesday nights to Steele Street, all they've got to do is come and have some fun. It's a safe environment, it's a healthy environment, and we invite everybody aged 9 to 14 to see us on Tuesday nights. Thanks.
Good stuff.
Yes.
Well done. Anything else?
He always wants me to say stuff. But anyways, thank you all for coming, for all the groups. Just remember to apply next time. I think it was Councillor Steele, I should say Director Steele when it comes to the Hydro Board, but that thought of the splitting the two, I guess, application grants, because people would forget at the beginning of the year and miss out on it, and then they'd come to Council, and Council got out of the granting business and turned that over to the Hydro Board. And so now you have 2 opportunities in the year to put in an application for your group, so please remember to do that. And we'll look forward to keep giving this money out as long as that money is there, I guess. So great, thanks. Thank you.
Okay, folks, we're going to give you about 5 minutes to, unless you guys want to stick around for the whole council meeting. We do have popcorn in the back. The vendors will be around with the cocktails and drinks and all that, and we're all set to go. But with that, folks, before you leave, though, I do want to say to all of you, thank you. The contributions that we may give you are financial, but the contributions you give the community there's no price we can put to it. So to all you different organizations that did receive money this evening, thank you for everything that you do. To Lawson, the family, to Snyder's, thank you for everything that you do. Tonight, there was a great theme, and this is what community is all about, and building community well into the future. So to all of you, thank you, and have a great evening. Members of the council, if I can reconvene, and we'll move on to the regional council's report. Councillor Barrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things on what I'd like to report on this evening. However, I'd first like to start off recognizing Patrick Robson, who's Commissioner of Integrated Community Planning. He's left his post to pursue other challenges, and he's held the post since late 2008. Most recently, he served as acting Chief Administrative Officer. I do want to recognize, I considered Patrick a colleague and a friend. Many may know him in Port Colborne. He was a town councillor for Wainfleet at one time as well. But in his 15-plus years at the region, Patrick leaves a legacy of accomplishments covering an impressive list of challenging and often very politically charged assignments. He led the transition and set up the provincial offences courts. He set up the governance model for Niagara Regional Housing, led the negotiation for ambulance dispatch services, and he led a number of service reviews carrying out their implementation. So I did want to recognize Patrick publicly and appreciate his efforts and wish him all the best in his future endeavors. Council may know, and the public as well through the media may know, there were conversations at the Regional Council meeting in December where we had talked about a number of questions potentially to be put to the public as referendum items. I do have the questions here. I'm going to read each of them just so everyone's aware of what's been discussed and what's on the radar, what has been on the radar anyway. So several questions were put forward to determine whether they should be placed on a ballot in the 2014 municipal election as a referendum item. One of the questions was, should the regional chair position be elected at large by the people of Niagara versus the current process of election by the regional council? Should the regional councillor position be limited to a maximum of 3 consecutive 4-year terms of service versus the current unlimited number of 4-year terms of service? Should the regional councillor position be a dual role position serving at both the region and at the respective municipality? Should the regional counselor position be full-time versus the current part-time position? Should the Niagara region fund region-wide transit service? Should the region of Niagara employ an integrity commissioner to oversee the conduct of regional counselors? And should the 12 municipalities of Niagara amalgamate to form a new city of Niagara? So each of those questions were discussed and debated and voted upon. We are now in a position, as of today anyway, that Regional Council is considering placing a referendum question on the 2014 municipal election ballot regarding transit. Here's the question that's being proposed, and there's a public meeting being set as well. The question is, are you in favor of the Council of the Regional Municipality of Niagara passing the necessary resolutions and bylaws to fund a region-wide transit service? So as noted, folks can provide feedback on the proposed question by speaking as a delegation at a special public meeting of Regional Council. Residents must register in advance to speak at this meeting. The date is February 6th, 6:30 p.m. at the regional headquarters. Certainly encourage folks to come out to that if they do have any input they'd like to share. One of the things that we're also going to be considering, Mr. Mayor, as you may know, is a public safety dispatch review. There's a recommendation for a formalized cooperation model for Niagara addressing public safety be endorsed where the leads of emergency dispatch services of St. Catharines Fire, Niagara Falls Fire, EMS Niagara Region, and Regional Police formalize a working team with the mandate to meet on a regular basis and through best practice management identify joint opportunities for improved service, cost savings, cost avoidance for their respective operations, develop plans and set into action, and report to their respective board council on progress through their respective leads. This will increase efficiency and improve public safety, and there's estimated potential savings in Niagara of $1.25 million per year. So we'll be having this dialogue as well moving forward. Regional Council, our last meeting, also just a quick note, did pass a resolution that encouraged the province to take immediate action to prevent rate hikes forecasted to rise 42% over the next 5 years regarding hydro rates. And as well as just a final note that the 2014 budget summary has now been released as well, a public document, and it is online for those of you who have additional interest in the budget. That's all I have this evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Barrick. Members of council, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a question to either you, Mr. Mayor, or Councillor Barrick. I get the impression that there is a large exodus of professionals from the region. And I have some concerns with everyone at the top leaving. And there's new people coming in, but why would there be such an exodus? I mean, your CAO left, your person of operations is now left, now this person, and I believe there's one more. I think this is the fourth one or fifth one that is left. What's going on?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Barrick.
Well, that is an HR matter. Really, the regional council can only hire and fire the CAO. As for the other positions, some of them, there have been press releases, there have been public statements. And so I think in fairness to all involved, we stick to what those statements are. Unless you have anything to add, Mr. Mayor. It's fair enough to say that there is a cultural change happening. So I can leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Barrick. And very politically correct. I'm impressed. I guess I won't be as politically correct. You know, for the most part, I think it's not a secret that at Regional Council over the course of the last term, there's been some challenges. And I think our senior staff have felt those challenges and have made, in their minds, an appropriate move to move on to other areas of their profession. It is unfortunate. I've seen a few good people leave, CAO, Director of, or I should say Commissioner of Public Works, Commissioner of Finance, Commissioner of now Planning, all of which I've worked very closely with in the last many years. And to some extent, with those particular individuals, I can say it's been unfortunate. However, again, I think with some of the challenges that we've felt around that regional council horseshoe in the last 4 years, is now unfortunately seeing some of our professionals leave, quite frankly, because of it. Okay. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Butters.
I just have one, Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor Barrick. I just wondered, you mentioned the other questions that Regional Councillor was discussing for referendum and said transit, but what about the other questions? Are they just fallen by the wayside then?
Councillor Barrick.
They have. Yes, they were discussed and debated, and they were not selected to be considered as a referendum item, at least for now.
Okay. Thank you, David. Thank you, Councillor Butters. Any further questions or comments? With none, thank you, Councillor. We'll now move on to Councillor's items, new business. Members of Council. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 2 items this evening. First is through you to Mr. Huppanen, and probably Mr. Aquilina for his department. I've had a number of complaints over the last few snow storms with regards to cars parked overnight on city streets, where the plows have to go around, and then it leaves quite the mess for parking issues or snow clearing issues. I know a few years ago we tagged cars and then we ticketed them. So if it takes to have our staff out during the night, I think everybody in Port Colborne realizes by now, or should realize by now, you're not supposed to park on city streets during a snow event. It's a lot easier for our plows to go down and get the snow out of the way than having to come back. To me, it's a waste of money to have to go back and clean streets where cars have been parked. And they all have driveways or places to park off street. So if we could have our staff be a little bit more diligent, that's probably the most calls I've ever had on that subject. I don't know if the other councillors have been receiving them or not, but, and I believe David has received some. So that's my first one. My second one is actually great news. Almost a year to this time, last year we opened up the new Valet Health and Wellness Center to lots of hoopla and happiness, and it's been going great guns ever since. I think we heard the mayor tonight speak about the partnership with the Y and all the events and programs that are running out of that center now. Just this month, we received from the Canada Green Building Council, we had our consultants called MMM Group Limited, who looked after our lead application for funding and how to build our facility energy efficient and all that stuff. So through it all, we were originally going for silver, which isn't bad. But as I say to my hockey teams, you can win the bronze, you got to lose to get silver, but guess what? We've got the gold. So the Port Colborne Valet, I'll just read you the quick note here from Charlene Lee, lead specialist for energy and engineering. Congratulations, your project 13397, Port Colborne Valet Health and Wellness Center, achieved 43 points, the gold certification level. And then there's some other things here. I do want to state that we didn't lose a single point in our application. Every single point we put in for was accepted. And in most of those categories, and actually the CAO and I were trying to find it, for some reason I can't find my attachment here, there is a chart, and we did very well in all the sections that applied to us. Some sections didn't apply to our project, but everything we did, we were getting like 15 out of 17, and 10 out of 12, or 12 out of 12, 14 out of 14, things like that. So I do have to congratulate our consultants, our staff, our public committee, who worked very diligently on achieving these. So things like our recycling program within the building, the way we use our lost heat from the ice plant to heat the building and use it for other ways instead of having the heat just going up in the air. changing our bus route within the community to come to the facility, putting in carpool parking spaces, the way the building was built, the types of windows, types of landscaping, all those things, parking lot, water issues, and how we get rid of water. And there was a myriad of things, and we spoke about those in the back room on many meetings with our lead consultants and especially our staff who worked side by side with them. So congratulations to those people, and really congratulations to the city of Port Colborne for the gold status. Because as I said, we went for silver. We thought we were going to have a tough time getting silver, but to get gold, it's pretty cool. So thank you, Worship.
You're welcome. 5 minutes, 25 seconds. And
that's good news.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. Well stated. Councillor Desmarais, and then Councillor Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the weekend, Councillor Dench, Councillor Butters, and myself went to see Larry Rosnick on Fraser Street to look at his proposed art project that he would like to install on the boulevard. We had a chance to actually see the sculptures and the sizes that they would be and how they would be erected. These are not invasive things at all, and they would sit between existing bushes, so they're not going to be sticking out where somebody's going to trip over them. They've already got to veer around bushes. These are all sitting on city lands. I would like to know how we, as a council, can move this forward. It's a gift that Mr. Rosnick would like to give to the city. This art project that would sit out in front of where he lives, but directly across from the park, and we could spur some sculpture gardens in the parks in the future. But there is an actual fee to get a permit in the beginning, and then there's an annual renewal. And on top of that, there's an extremely expensive insurance package that has to be put in place. And this is insurance for liability on land that the city owns and already has insurance for liability on. So can we find a way around these fees and make this happen? It's coming to the city basically free of charge. Mr. Rosnick will supply all the materials and do the installation and do the upkeep to a point to where the tree is no longer able to hold the sculpture. And at that point, there'll have to be a decision made, but that's years down the line. So is there a way that we can make this happen? And I guess it would be through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Sinnes, possibly.
Actually, I'll ask Mr. Howell to comment on it. Mr. Howell?
Thank you.
Your Worship, simple way around it, you do have an encroachment bylaw right now. People, when they put a bench, chair, or something, and you require people to protect the municipality. You want to get around it, he can donate them, you can accept them as a city council, and direct where they go. That's the way around it. Then they become our property, our responsibility, our maintenance, and our staff will have to look after it. That's really the only way around it, unless you want to let him encroach for nothing, but I certainly would not recommend that.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Councillor?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Howell. Actually, I wouldn't want to have someone encroach for nothing either. I don't think that's the way to go. But we certainly could take ownership of them. Mr. Rosnick is willing to donate them. He would actually do the installation of them, and like I say, they would be maintenance-free for, I believe it's 15 years. The arborist, he has an arborist that has come and taken a look at it. It would be maintenance free for 15 years. So, and at that point, I'm sure that if the city didn't want to put any money into re-erecting them or maintaining them in some way, we could always take them down. But if I could put that motion forward, that we allow this to go forward and take ownership of these sculptures.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Butters, any questions or comments to that? Councillor Butters?
Yeah, I just, in going over there, and when we went over on probably one of the snowiest, windiest, it was really cold. If you actually went and looked at at that piece of boulevard on Fraser Street, and the way there's like bushes and plantings around these, I'll call them stumps, because the one is only about 3 feet off the ground, and then there's bushes kind of surrounding it. So if you can kind of picture that there's, what he's prepared to do and willing to do is sand down the part of the tree, sand it down, primer it, and then put a coating of paint on it, which would then, according to his tree person, would do the trick for many, many years to come. And then, you know, it would probably need like a coat of paint. He's willing to do all of that. So in that way, you would have some really interesting pieces across from where the trail is, across from the park. And I really think it gives us an opportunity to spur on maybe development of a sculpture park in Seaway Park. So they're only small too. Like the totems are maybe about this big. The fish is perhaps this long, this high, and then the crow is. They're all small. They're not big pieces at all. So I can picture this in this area without being bothersome to anybody, but bringing a part of interesting aspect to that area as well. So I certainly will support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments or questions? With none, all those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to Councillor Doucette.
Very much, Mr. Mayor. In listening to a lot of the news items and in reading a lot lately, the cost to the city for Canada Post to increase their postage in March, that amount is going to be, I would tend to believe, considerable. And the reason for that is that we have sections of the Municipal Act that indicate that we must mail out, example, taxes, example, utility bills. They cannot be sent electronically, or at least there isn't an amendment that has been put together that indicates that we can do that. That means that whatever we are paying for postage today, we can almost double by March. Simply because it's going from 63 cents to $1, I think, or $1.05 or something like that. Regular straight postage. Okay? I was wondering if staff has done any calculations about that, and should we do a calculation about that and make sure that we're in budget times, should we not be looking at that and seeing how it's going to affect the budget? It's definitely going to affect the budget in some way, shape, or form. And someone put that in my ear, and I agree. I think that we should estimate it and then go for it. But through you to Mr. Sinez or Mr. Heil, I don't know who can give me the answer to that, or maybe we should just send it to staff for an estimation and come back to us.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Sinez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do realize that, and we do receive bulk rates for our tax bills that go out and certain things that do go out in bulk. But there are things that go out on the regular mail too. So it's our budget right now does have room for that purpose, but it's not something that we actually looked at exactly how many pieces of mail we've sent out and did that calculation and so on. But it is something that we can definitely look at to make sure that we do have enough in the budget. I believe that we do, but and look at what our bulk rates are, because our bulk rates are different than the regular rates. So we'll take a look at.
Thank you.
We can take a look at that.
Councillor.
I agree with you that the bulk rates are less, but if regular mail is going up, bulk rates are going to go up, so it comes out to the same thing. So we need to find out what the bulk rates are going to be and what their estimation is of what they feel their bulk rates are going to be at that time, and that will affect. Now, thank God, I mean, we're a smaller community. Just think of some of the larger communities that are going to run into this. I think there has to be something that we can do, some letter that we can send out saying, hey guys, you're affecting us. Smarten up. I don't know if that's possible, but.
Thank you, Councillor. If we can have that during budget, if we can see the net difference between the past and what you're projecting for the future, put a number on it, get a reality out. Yeah. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Councillor Danch.
I'm going to be the shortest one tonight for sure. Our Main Street BIA is meeting February the 4th at the Country Store in the front room, 7 o'clock at night. And just a little heads up, we do have a few members that don't have the internet or don't use the email services, so maybe they'll be watching, can TV, and I'll get this note. So if you'd like to show up, please do, February the 4th at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Danch. Further new business, Councillor's items. Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just back from the lovely town of Fort Erie, who, by the way, their city hall from my driveway is exactly the same time as this city hall getting there. So it's not very, no, I wasn't speeding against it. And I went through the 40 zone too. We talked about, you know. So. Anyways, as council will remember, there was a group that put on 3 concerts at Roselawn this Christmas. And they just recently made the presentations of the amount of money they donated after these concerts. And the group was, I was happy to be involved, but the real drivers were Bill Thomas, Candace Turner-Smith, and Monica Rose. And all busy people, but they seemed fit to put on these concerts. And so what they were able to do, they donated $2,000 to Friends of Roselawn. They donated $500 to Port Colborne High School Culinary and Arts because they came over and helped Friends of Roselawn with Doors Open, and they were a huge hit, just fabulous. And they also donated $500 to Port Cares. During the concerts, attendees were asked to bring a donation of a toy or canned goods. So they felt that they'd like to top it off with that. So, so Mr. Mayor, that's what they were able to donate, and kudos to them. They were just, they did a fabulous job. And I wonder if you'd indulge me, there's a few businesses in town that donated to that. I wonder if I might be able to just give them a shout out because they were really community minded. It was South Niagara Community Futures Development Corporation, Frank Donato at TD Canada Trust, Peter Vivine from North America Traffic, the sign, stop sign people, Lester and Todd Schultz from Portal Village, Jamie and Kendra Shirk from Shirk Plumbing and Heating, Mark Navarre from Thurston Machine, Robin Ross Tuck from Tuck Jewelers, Len Stolk from Stolk Construction, Paul D'Amico from Light Hearts Cleaners and Wayne Flea Box and Pallet, and Paul Leon from Leon Fazzari, and Sandy White from White's Insurance. And these are people that help out in our community, and I just thought they should get a big thanks for doing that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bodnar. Well stated. Members of Council, any further new business? Councillor's items. Just one thing I wanted to bring to your attention. You might recall a few weeks ago, or actually a few months ago, I had invited the Minister of Rural Affairs down to Port Colborne to spend some time with myself and members of staff to go over some of the issues that we're dealing with here in the city of Port Colborne, but also throughout the entire Niagara region. Although he said yes and he did come down, I had to at the last minute fly to New York to tend to that issue with respect to an economic development initiative that we're working on, and was unable to be here in town. He did come down and spent the majority of his time in North Niagara with some of the North Niagara mayors. However, disappointed I was. There's nothing I can much do about it. Minister Leal has decided to come down again, and he is going to spend a day with myself and members of staff, not a day, but part of the day, to go over some of the issues that we're dealing with both here in Port Colborne and once again throughout the Niagara region. And I wanted to give members of council an opportunity to not only recognize what I'll be discussing with him, but also to give you an opportunity to throw at me any issues that you may be working on. Because I know each individual councillor has taken on a niche throughout this past term with respect to some of the issues happening both here locally as well as regionally. So I will be talking to him. It's going to be an economic discussion, there's no question, and tour. So not only a discussion, but also a tour to show him around and let him know firsthand what smaller communities are dealing with in every regard. Of course, I'll be discussing with him our gateway strategy, our newly established industrial employment lands, the incentive packages that are attached to that, the multimodal capacities that we have available here. I think that goes without saying. Just take a look, you can see it. And as well, our location and the marketing strategy that regionally we're putting forward currently. There's a report on our agenda this evening having to do with the provincial multimodal goods movement strategy and are working with not only here regionally, but also within the Gateway strategy, how we're now reaching out to municipalities, especially to the west, not only to the American side, but also to the west, and collaborating with them, and as well furthering the interests of our local supply chain as well as our knowledge-based sector. As well, I'll be discussing with him the inter-regional strategic economic logistics corridors and gateway connections, which will align well with their provincial multimodal goods movement strategy. And of course, with that, what we have to offer to the province economically, not just benefiting Port Colborne and Niagara, but as well because of what we're doing, how it benefits the entire economic strategy of the province of Ontario. As well, the east-west Arturo Road connecting the Peace Bridge to our employment lands in the 140-406 area of South Niagara, and as well, that being the first leg of the Mid-Peninsula Corridor, and although of late I'm beginning to call it the extension of the Highway 402, which in fact connects the trade corridors and the economic destinations of the province of Ontario. As well, speaking to him about the servicing, and I think, Jim, this is something that you might be interested in, wastewater servicing of the over 300 hectares of land that we do and now have established as our industrial growth area, and as well the rail on apron application that we most recently submitted to the province. And finally, Niagara's lakefront enhancement strategy, augmenting the overall destination marketing campaign that Niagara has in front of us, and how Port Colborne adds as Niagara's south coast to that overall strategy. So those are some of the things I'm going to be discussing with him, and by all means, members of council and Councillor Barrick, yourself as well, anything that you want to add to that agenda and itinerary, by all means, let me know, and I'll be sure to bring that to his attention as well as the staff so that they can hopefully further along the interests of both Port Colborne, South Niagara, as well as the entire region of Niagara. Okay? So with no further new business, Councillors' items, we'll now move on to the adoption of the minutes. I do have two sets of minutes, one being the minutes of the 28th meeting special of Committee of the Whole, dated December 16th, 2013. If I can have a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Kenny, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Secondly, if I can have a motion and a mover and seconder for the minutes of the first meeting regular of Committee of the Whole, dated January 13th, 2014. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Kenny, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you, members of council. We'll now move on to items for separate discussion. I'm going to start off with item 9. If you don't mind, members of council, I think we had someone in here that wanted to speak to it. I'm not sure if he's still here, but it looks as if it is not. But item 9, Councillor Steele.
Your Worship. Ministry of the Environment, Minister Jim Bradley, re City of Port Colborne's resolution regarding Call to Recycle Industry Stewardship Plan, ISP, for consumer batteries. That the correspondence received from Minister Jim Bradley, Minister of the Environment, re City of Port Colborne's resolution regarding Call to Recycle Industry Stewardship Plan ISP for for consumer batteries be received for information.
He's been advised that, well, do I have to go through that all again because my microphone was off? I should, eh? Yeah, I should. Okay, this correspondence that Councillor Steele was kind enough to raise is correspondence with respect to the drastic impacts Bill 91, as well as what Bill 91 will have on Raw Materials Inc. here in the city of Port Colborne with respect to the battery recycling Some may have read about it in our local media. I know our Chamber of Commerce is very much involved, as well as myself and my office, and of course the 12 municipalities in the regional municipality of Niagara. This council has passed a resolution expressing our concern to the province, supported by, I think, the majority, if not all, 12 municipalities, as well as the region itself. I had not only drafted that resolution for your consideration and had it distributed, which was the very least we can do, but also took a step further to set up a meeting with the minister to, in fact, discuss with him those impacts that it would have on 30 to 40 jobs here in the city of Port Colborne, and quite frankly, an award-winning company that has taken battery recycling to the next level with respect to dealing with it and batteries and recycling in a responsible fashion. With that said, a meeting I had arranged with Minister Bradley was set up for next Monday, and just today I found out that the minister will not meet with me because he's been advised by his staff that he has, in fact, as the Minister of Environment, a conflict of interest. So, unfortunate to say the very least, but quite frankly, the door may have shut, but it's going to be reopened quickly because I just won't tolerate letting this go and leaving it be. So, with that said, my intent is to further our interest and the interest of this company, working with them to attempt to get the attention of not only the Ministry of Environment, but also WDO, the Waste Division Ontario, which is the organization that's looking after this file, as well as others throughout the province, the nation, and of course, even on the American side, to let them know full well what Raw Materials Inc. is doing here in the city of Port Colborne and the reason why they deserve to further their agenda and their business interests because of the responsibility they've taken on this file. So just to give you a heads up on that, I think this letter was timely today from the minister. I don't buy everything that he says in this letter, and I'll deal with that. I'll deal with that face to face with him. My intent is not to go through the media or to play politics in this one. It's to deal with it directly, face to face with Minister Bradley with respect to the situation at hand. And I'll leave it at that for now. So with that, the correspondence is in front of you. It has been moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments on it? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 1. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. Department of Planning and Development Report number 2014-7, subject OMB appeal of zoning bylaw amendment for Port Colborne Quarries, file D140513. The Council defends its decision to approve the zoning bylaw amendment, filed D140513, at the OMB hearing, provided that Port Colborne Quarries covers all costs for the city's full participation. 2, that Port Colborne Quarries be so advised.
Thank you, Councillor. Have a seconder to that, please. Councillor Desmarais, questions or comments to that? Mr. Aquilina, if you can give some background on it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Council will recall, back in October of last year, there was a rezoning request from Port Colborne Quarries that Council approved to permit concrete product manufacturing within Pit 1 on the Port Colborne Quarries property. It was subject to a holding provision that would require a site plan agreement amendment before any development is permitted to allow that facility on the property. Subsequent to that, members of the public that were at the public meeting before Council raised concerns, the fact that Council granted approval. Myself, other planning staff, Councillor Bodner, Councillor Butters met with the property owners in question to gauge their concerns. They made their position to myself to try to avoid an OMB decision. They made the comment that if their concerns were not addressed by Port Colborne Quarries, they had no other choice but to file an OMB appeal. We then brought forward their requests to Mr. Tom Rankin, owner of Port Colborne Quarries, and they had requested a 300-meter setback from the property line to that facility and require that no parking be permitted south of the facility, but allow it within the buffer area. All those were brought back to Mr. Rankin. He said, I can't do that, but I would agree to have a 60-meter buffer from the property lines, and I would also erect fencing along the property line and plant trees. That was then conveyed back to the property owners that had concerns. and they did not want to entertain that, and they filed an OMB appeal. The OMB has set a hearing date of April of this year. This report directs council to provide a defense of council's decision. However, Port Colborne Quarries, because they are the applicant to their proposal to permit the concrete product manufacturing, because there is a cost to actually defend a decision. Those costs relate to legal fees. Port Colborne Quarries says that they are going to engage their own legal counsel, Aird and Bearless. So this report recommends that council have Port Colborne Quarries fund the legal fees, but it would be actually a defense of the City of Port Colborne's position. That's what this report recommends, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. And of course, members of council, you recall that this report was presented to you with respect to a new company that's interested in coming into the City of Port Colborne. Just one question, Mr. Heil. The last OMB hearing that we had to defend, what was the cost of that?
Currently, Your Worship, there's a cost to be coming forward on budget of $33,000.
Thank you, Mr. Heil. Any further questions or comments, members of council? With none, to defend this, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to item 3. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. Department of Engineering and Operations Report number 2014-04. Subject Information Report, Kalali Street West Reconstruction, January 2014 update. That the Council of the City of Port Colborne received the Engineering and Operations Report 2014-04 Information Report, Kalali Street West Reconstruction, January 2014 update for information, that staff continue to provide Council with project updates via email as needed.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Dan. Mr. Helpman, if you can give us an update. I guess there's a lot of people, or there probably is, or I'm sure there is, because I've been asked a few times, a lot of people out there wondering what's going on in Kalali Street, what's happening, and when it's going to be finalized and done and completed. If you want to give us an update, please.
Sure thing, Mr. Mayor. As many of you know, we've started the construction on Kalali Street earlier this month. I would have liked to brought this report forward earlier, but we're still finalizing details with the region, with cost sharing and stuff like that. So it's kind of premature to bring it any sooner than now. Construction is being done by Alpha Beam Excavating. They're actually working for the region. The region is going to be installing the water main on behalf of the city, which we actually designed in-house. So they began construction. They're doing some storm extension work at Steel Street intersection west towards Knoll Street to connect in with the ditch there. With weather, it's been delayed a little bit, but they are moving ahead. They're probably going to begin water main construction within the next couple weeks, with hopes to have the water main up and running probably early to late spring, maybe April or something like that. With the whole project, fresh asphalt, curbs, and new sidewalks and that throughout from King Street to Steel Street, wrapping up in July. Hopefully before Canal Days, that's the plan. With this weather we've been having, it's been delaying the contractor a little bit, but we actually have a construction meeting next week, so if anything comes out of that, I will sure to send an email out to council, just to give a further update.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Any questions or comments to that? With none, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 5. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Marketing Report number 2014-01. Subject Update on Port Colborne Skills Inventory Project. That the Council of the City of Port Colborne receives this report for information purposes, and that the appropriate purchase order be issued to authorize the contract with Forum Research Inc. for $15,000 plus $50 HST. There's a typo in your on your page there. It should read $50.
Thank you, Councillor. Questions or comments, members of council? Mr. Heil.
Your Worship, can I ask Mr. Aquilina to report?
Great, thank you.
Update.
Mr. Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report, what it is actually requesting council to give their consent for a project that was first initiated last year to augment our skills inventory under the Economic Development Strategy and Action Plan. There are 3 components of that program. One is a skills inventory survey, which this report speaks of. The other one is the business retention and expansion project. And the third one is a website design and update that would actually assist anyone looking towards the City of Port Colborne, both for business analytics, real estate, or business opportunities. So this report speaks to the skills inventory, and it's a survey. This report actually requests that council engage forum research to conduct that survey. These are all funded by upper tier levels of government to complete this. What this will do is it will survey 600 households to gauge what their skills are and what their background is with respect to labor. The original grant request was to complete 15,000 households. That was a little overzealous, cost prohibitive to do so based on the budget funding that was granted by the upper levels of government. This report informs council that it would be 600 surveys conducted. And once council, or if council grants this, we will then gear up, ramp up for forum to complete those surveys, and we will report back through that strategy to council under the business retention and expansion, the whole program.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilino. Well done. Members of council, questions or comments further? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I guess I just really want any of the public to be aware that I know lots of them don't like telemarketers, and so the minute they get a call, it's click. They don't want to hear. And I know this went out in the water bill. I think it was the water bill, right? Because I've had several people ask me exactly when this survey was going to take place. So I just hope that we let the public know clearly that this is a survey that really will help their community in which they live. And Mr. Aquilino, when you say 600 will be, I guess, spoken to, will we get back 600? Because they may have to make 900 calls to get 600 people to answer their survey, or maybe 1,000 calls to make sure that, you know, we get 600 back. But I just think it's important that we get the message out to our citizens that this is a survey that really will help our community. Thank you.
Mr. Aquilino.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What the consultant will do, he's directed that he needs to come back with 600 completed surveys. So hopefully it won't take that much calls, Councillor Kenny, but unfortunately, it's really what response we get back from members of the public. That's why we put that response out in the water bills, and to inform people this is what the project is and these are the results, and this is really something that's going to benefit the City of Port Colborne to understand what skills are out there, so we can then target those specific labor forces. So, Mr. Mayor, I hope there is a positive response we get from members of the public, because that's all going to be filtered into a final report that's going to be brought forward to council for information purposes, and for that we can actually use as we move forward in economic development.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Aquilino. Mr. Howe.
During the one of the stakeholders meetings, and there's the Ministry, Brock University, Niagara College, Chamber of Commerce, there's all the industry representatives that meet here to discuss what's going on. Everybody around the table said, make sure it's not a 1-800 number because people won't answer it. They're trying to, Samir right now is trying to work with the consultant, if this is approved, to find some way that it shows Port Colborne, something that to try to identify it's Port Colborne somehow, so they won't just hang up, that they will respond.
Good, thank you. Further questions or comments? Councillor Bodner.
Mr. Mayor, I know we can't do anything about this because I would assume they are starting very soon if they haven't started already.
Mr. Aquilino.
Mr. Mayor, if council approves this report, we will then sign a contract with this company. They were the only ones that responded to our request for services.
Okay.
Councillor.
And I just would assume that they might call the odd person in Ward 4. So there's not too many water bills delivered in Ward 4. So I'm just thinking, you know, maybe if the newspapers, and not much COGECO in Ward 4 either, other than Empire Road, but you know, if we do this again, or we have to do something, and can we maybe get it thought process earlier so we could send it out in the tax bill or something that everybody gets. I don't know how we can do it, but just a thought to, to also include the residents in Ward 4 who may not find out what's going on.
Thank you. Mr. Aquilina?
Mr. Mayor, what we've done, and that's a very good point, Councillor Bonner, is that we're trying to market the actual survey. We've tried to, we have it placed on the city's website. We want to get it in our newsletter. We want to get it out to the media, social media, so people are aware that what we're doing. So if this happens again in the future, we can look at even more ways to get the message out there so people are aware out in Ward 4 for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Thank you, Councillor Bodner. Any further questions or comments? With none, all those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. Actually, you know what? You moved that, didn't you? I never did get a seconder. Councillor Desmarais? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. If I can now move on to item 11, Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just on the previous one, maybe get that up on Bodner's sign. Everybody reads that on Highway 3. So let everybody know out there. Yeah, there you go. Item 11, Region of Niagara. Regarding Niagara to GTA Corridor Planning Environmental Assessment Study, Phase 1, Final Transportation Development Strategy, PW Report 90-2013. That the correspondence received from the Region of Niagara regarding Niagara to GTA Corridor Planning and Environmental Assessment Study, Phase 1, Final Transportation Development Strategy, PW Report 90-2013 be received for information, and that the Council reiterate its previously stated position that designated tunnel lands be deregulated as controlled access in Port Colborne.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Bodner. Questions or comments to it? Mr. Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Council will recall, there have been previous attempts by the City of Port Colborne, all the way from Mayor Badaway, myself, heading up to Queen's Park to try to get that Highway 3 diversion tunnel off the books. A lot of reports that the region now is engaged in, and they want to get that done. So again, the City of Port Colborne's position is make it happen. It's slowing and holding up development. We want to see that done. The report speaks to other transportation projects that are ongoing right now throughout the region of Niagara. And I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor, if you want to speak to those, but the main impetus to the city is east-west corridor, linkages to the 140, and get that Highway 3 diversion removed.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Just a little bit, folks. I'm not going to go into it because you guys are already aware of this, what we've been working on at the region. This report has, as you can see, 10 different recommendations attached to it. The subject is the Niagara to GTA corridor. I still call it the Mid-Penn corridor, but as I said earlier, I'm starting to call it more and more the 402 because it is an extension of our trade corridor that would extend all destinations, trade destinations in Ontario. But you can see the 10 recommendations. It does speak about the east-west arterial road that connects the Peace Bridge to Highway 140, and with that connects our newly established employment lands. But equally as important is once the EA process completes itself, then of course we expect the Highway 3, the crossing of the Welland Canal, the bypass, that's been there since 1974 as an order in council. That has also been probably, I won't say a lot, but a good amount of headache to many developments that have been trying to get underway here in the city of Port Colborne, including Rosemount Estates. So with that, we're hoping at the regional level and working hard with Public Works, I'm personally hoping that this order in council from 1974 will finally be lifted based on the completion of this environmental assessment. Okay. So with that, members of council, all those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Councillor Steele, the last item, item 12.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 12, Region of Niagara regarding Western Golden Horseshoe Municipal Network Chapter, PW Report 10-2014. That the correspondence received from the Region of Niagara regarding Western Golden Horseshoe Municipal Network Charter, PW Report 10-2014, be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor. Questions or comments on this? Members of council? Again, I'm not going to bore you with it, but this is the next steps that we've been taking. I brought this to your attention back about a year and a half ago with respect to attempting to bring together a stronger voice to the province with respect to the different areas that we've been working on with the Gateway Strategy and in particular the transportation strategy. Councillor Bodner, you'll be aware of this being on the Transportation Strategy Steering Committee at the regional level. And members of council, I have these, I want you to take a look at these after the meeting. And these are maps that I had made at the region to communicate to regional council the need to do this. And of course, council's support then enabled staff to go out and quite frankly, the purpose of the Western Golden Horseshoe Municipal Network is to advance a common perspective regarding the need for transportation and transit infrastructure, not only here in Niagara, but extending out to the West End. And as I mentioned earlier, how important it is to have that stronger voice to then communicate to the province, for example, how important it is with our American partners to support the Continental One. And then from there, as it comes into Ontario, and as I just spoke about the East-West Arterial Road, to then make the connection between the Peace Bridge and the 406 and the 140 lands, the employment lands. Okay, so you can see that on this map, how it articulates and shows the East-West Arterial Road. And then, of course, the next map then shows how then, in the future, that East-West link will then move on to the 403 area, through the Hamilton area, involving Hamilton, and the municipalities in between. And then, of course, moving on to the 401, involving the Guelph area, the KW area, the Brantford area, on over to London, hence the 402, and of course the Windsor. So what this report does is identifies the need to work closer together, not only as Port Colborne, Southern Niagara, as Niagara, but also working with our partners in Brantford, KW, Hamilton, Sarnia, and Windsor, really making those trade corridor links, but as well introducing to those areas our multimodal capacities, and equally, if not most importantly, the supply chain that we have available here in Port Colborne and Niagara, and vice versa. So that's happening right now. This report articulates that, and hopefully it'll send a strong message to the province that it's not just Port Colborne or Niagara fighting for these trade corridors to be established, but it's the entire southwestern Ontario gateway that's fighting. And hopefully those voices can be heard a lot louder than just us alone. Okay? So with that said, any further questions or comments on this? Madam Clerk? Do I have a seconder, please? I had Councillor Bodner, I thought. Okay. Councillor Steele, Councillor Bodner. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion, members of council? With none, if I can ask for a motion to adjourn this portion of tonight's agenda. Councillor Doucette. Councillor Butters, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We'll now move on to our council agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Thank you. Members of council, I'll need a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Steele, Councillor Desmarais, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Are there any disclosures of interest? With no disclosures of interest, and so noted by the clerk, we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes of the first meeting regular of council, dated January 13th, 2014. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Doucette, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Items requiring separate discussion. With none, mover and seconder for the items listed on your agenda, please. Councillor Butters, Councillor Kenny, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We'll now move on to the minutes of the Canal Days Advisory Committee meeting dated October 2nd, 2013, as well as November 20th, 2013. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Danch, Councillor Kenny, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. The minutes of the long-term master plan meeting of November 27th, 2013, and of course that long-term master plan has to do with the fire department. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Butters, Councillor Steele, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Are there any notices of motion? No notices of motion. Madam Clerk, floor is yours. Introduction of the bylaws.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaw be read 3 times and finally passed. Bylaw 60410714, being a bylaw to authorize entering into a contract agreement with Bob Robinson and Son Construction regarding tender 2013-21 annual sewer flushing and CCTV inspection.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Doucette, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That'll be carried. We'll now move on to the confirmatory bylaw. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaw be read 3 times and finally passed. Bylaw 60420814 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its regular meeting of January 27, 2014.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kenny, Councillor Desmarais, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Before I go on to our last motion, members, I do want to remind you and those in the public that we have 2 meetings in February coming up. We have Monday, February 10th, 2014, Committee of the Whole and Council here in the Chamber beginning at 6:30 p.m. And Monday, February 24th, 2014, once again, Committee of the Whole and Council here in the Chamber beginning at 6:30 p.m. There should be a budget meeting in there somewhere. Mr. Heil?
Your Worship, staff are meeting this week, and we're going to try to have a report prepared for you for a special budget meeting on February the 11th. That's Tuesday evening, if possible, perhaps at 6 o'clock. There's hydro, fiber, energy meeting before that. We will plan for 6 o'clock. We'll bring in some sandwiches or something. Pardon? What time?
6:30.
For an application?
Okay, work on those dates, guys.
We'll work around it, but we'll try to fit it in, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Many meetings.
Councillor Bodner?
Mr. Mayor, I heard that, is there just one item on Committee of Adjustment?
3.
Oh, 3, okay, sorry.
Okay. Work around it.
We will.
Okay, now, I will need a motion to go into closed session so that council proceed in camera to deal with 4 issues. First being the minutes of the closed session portion of January 13, 2014 council meeting. Secondly, being a confidential Community and Corporate Services Clerks Division report number 2014-1. Subject is the appointments to boards, committees, Heritage Port Colborne pursuant to Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392B. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. The third being the confidential planning and development report 2014-9 concerning a potential acquisition of land by the municipality pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And finally, the fourth issue being confidential planning and development report number 2014-10 concerning the disposition of city-owned land and legal advice respecting same pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and subsection 2392F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Danch, Councillor Bodner. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Have a wonderful week.